Boom, guys, listen, we're back. And I'm going to talk about today something that someone posted a question about this on my Instagram Q&A the other day. It's about, should you still join the military, special forces or not, in this day and age? All right, you guys know it. I'm not a big fan of Big Brother, right? But I can tell you that, you know it's funny? The government should be paying me for recruitment. I should get paid to recruit people. I don't think anyone has recruited as much people as I have, right? Real hard to kill people. Real hard to kill soldiers, you know? And the reason for the question, right, I'm guessing, is because you see this, all the time. Oh, there's new wars going on. There's wars there, war this, war that, right? First of all, don't watch the news. It's just filled with negativity. I think a big concern for a lot of people is that, they don't want to get drafted into war. But also, then you got to ask the question, well, why are you going in there in the first place, right? I mean, it's not that you're going in there to fight the war, but you're going in there knowing that is a possibility and a risk, right? And so, yeah, that is a possibility. Yeah, that is a risk, right? Depending on where you're from, it's more likely or not. In Norway, it's not as likely. The thing is, yes, I do still believe that you should go in there. And the reason I still think that is because I don't think there's any better area right now in the modern world to improve yourself as a man than the military. And it's unfortunate, right? Because you used to have I think you had something called boarding schools and stuff back in the day, like all boys schools with physical activity mandatory. Teacher would bring out the belt, right? If you didn't do your push-ups, right? That's how I'm gonna raise my sons, all right? I'll take that back, I don't want to be self-incriminating. Actually, I'll do whatever the fuck I want, all right? So fuck you. Yeah, I'm going to make strong sons, right? I'm going to make strong, mean, notorious Nikos, right? A full army of them. Ladies, watch out. I'm going to have to get multiple wives because I'm going to have 20. We need one football team, many, spec up soldiers, and we're going to need, farm boys, all this stuff, right? We're going to have a full army. So, but, that's all. Digression. This is fucking funny. Anyways, so I think that you should go in there because it's the best area you can improve yourself in life. But I think the big thing is here that, you got to draw out the lessons when you're there. You can't just be going in there all mindless. I did that at some point, right? And so you get sucked in the system. It's fun, and you get really obsessed with the job. And that's good, right? That's good. You get your own equipment and all this stuff, and it's very, very nice. And you're very intrigued about all this stuff, and that's great. That's how it should be, right? You should be intrigued by the job you're doing. That's how it should be, right? It's not always as easy to navigate because I've been there for a long time. I was 6 years in the military, and I've seen the most competent people ever, and some of the most retarded motherfuckers, right, ever. It's insane, right? You get the whole spectrum. So when you're looking at, people going into the military, people are there right now, just know that it's filled with complete retards, but also a few, gems. A few. They're very far and few in between, but there are some gems in there. What you want to do is you don't really want to be either of those, right? You want to be that gray man in the middle. So once you go in there, right, you'll go through your training or whatever. And what I want you guys to do if you're going in there, which you should go in there and try and do the best job you can, right? Don't go in there and think that, I don't want you guys to get the wrong idea. I'm saying to go in there and not become, you should go in there, right? But don't think that you're something special just because you're there and you're having different ideas than perhaps someone else, right? You're just the same cannon fodder as everyone else. You're the same, you're not special, and so you're going in there, you do exactly what you're told, right? Except for taking COVID vaccines, right? Don't do that shit. Which we'll get to we'll get to that part in a moment, all right? We're just building up here slowly like a nuke, all right? And then we're going to go complete lift-off in a second here. So you're going in there and you're going to do exactly what you're told. You're going to do it to the point and you're going to be the absolute best at it, okay? This is how you're supposed to do it. You're not going to be kissing ass or anything. You're just going to do exactly what you're told and you're going to do it to the best of your ability because you've been watching my videos. You're in the best shape, both in body and mind, right? And so you're going to spend a lot of time there. You're going to spend maybe a few years there and you're going to have a great time. The problem, right? The problem with all this is that within this culture, within the culture that you'll meet there, or perhaps you're already a part of, right? Which this message goes out to you as well. If you're already in the system, hey, listen to this. The problem is that there is this subculture of absolute degeneracy, of drinking, of fucking not having any balls to say no, the conformity that goes on in there. And it's absolutely disgusting, right? I can tell you, listen, I'm like, I was gonna say Jeffrey Epstein, but it's not, it's not the best stuff. I have so much shit I could talk about, the military, about the culture and, some of the stories that's been going on there. But I choose not to, right? Because I kind of respect the institution. And I respect that you have to protect the ecosystem. And so, they should be, on their knees kissing they should be shining my boots for me not talking about this on camera, It's great having free will and having free speech, you don't really have it in Norway, but, it's a bit of a police state, to be honest. But I have so much shit I could talk, right? That's also why I don't talk about it that much, because if I were to talk about the military and all this stuff there all the time, there's always two sides of the story, and I don't want to just end up talking about all the good stuff. There's a lot of garbage that goes on there, a lot of garbage stories, and that's what I want you guys to avoid, all right? There's a hive mind mentality that goes in there, and don't look at only this point when I'm telling you guys this, because I want you guys to go in there. I want you guys to have fun with it, challenge it. Don't treat it as a summer camp. You're in there for a purpose. You're in there for a reason. So there's this hive mind, however, of fucking degeneracy, of drinking, of bad values that goes beyond just putting on the uniform and doing a great job. All right. You do not want to be a part of this. You do not. And yes, you will be looked down upon. You will be frowned upon. I was, all right? There's I could talk about this, but I'm not going to go into. But there were certain things that people thought of me that gave me certain consequences. Okay? Leaders. And speaking of leaders, right? I'll just leave it at that. But speaking of leaders, these leaders, they don't care about you. Okay, they have their own careers, they have their own families, their own homes. If they do care, that's very rare. If they actually care, you are cannon fodder. You are like replaceable, and you need to know that. And they will sweet talk you, and they will say all the other opposite stuff, because that's their job. They're supposed to motivate you. They're supposed to push you to go further. And that's I get that. I understand that. But you need to understand that you are replaceable. Listen to the song Disposable Heroes by Metallica, and you'll understand, you'll get the big picture. And that's just the brutal nature of it. And I will say this, there's a lot of soldiers who hasn't accepted that fact. There's a lot of soldiers who don't accept the fact that they're completely replaceable. Their lives are not that much worth. It's sad to say, but it's a fact that I had to wrestle with. Since I'm such a genius as opposed to all these degenerates in there, I had to go through the thoughts of why I was there, what I was willing to do. Would I show up if the crisis came, right? Would I do my job if shit hit the fan? Would I actually show up? I don't think people have actually, especially in Norway, right, where the mentality is like, well, there's not much going on anyways. The likelihood of actually going out there and having to risk your life is really low, and so I don't think people really wrestle with the idea of like, hey, real shit could go down. And I had to wrestle with that thought, because I realized I was there for more than just fucking pew and parties. And that's a shame, because that's a big part of what it's become. And I want you guys to avoid that mentality. I want you guys to avoid, be friendly to all these people. Be a professional when you're showing up there. These people are your teammates and all that stuff. But what we are in uniform, what we are when we do work, can be a completely different person than who we are when we come home, when we're off the job. Going in there and doing a phenomenal job and being a great soldier doesn't mean that you have to go, after work and drink and party all night. Some of the worst parts of the military was sitting down on Thursdays. No, on Fridays, because they used to party on Thursday evenings because everyone went home on Friday, right? It's like a 9 to 5, right? So we're not all on base all the time. So one of the worst things was sitting there on Fridays and listening to their fucking shit-ass garbage conversation. Listening to these people speak about the fucking party the day before, the evening before. I could not fucking stand it. I would get my food tray, I would get up and I would move tables. I cannot tell you how much I hate speaking. This is something I do to this day, right? If someone opens their shit mouth and started talking about the day before and the fucking party and how wild it was, my brain goes beep boop beep boop. I'm like, shut the fuck up, okay? Can you not talk about anything else than how much liquor you decided to put in your shit mouth? You fucking degenerate. Get a fucking grip. Like, what the fuck is this even, right? Thursday evening, you're fucking drinking. Different topic. But you want to avoid these people. You don't want to become part of their fucking hive mind of, you know, what they're doing. And you will be looked down upon. You will be looked down upon. For sure. I was, right? There's a lot of people judging me. And I get that. That's their thing. That's not my thing. And maybe I'm not cut out for that. But I'm cut out for the job. And you will be cut out for the job. But you don't need to be part of all this, that extra that comes, right? You need to keep your individuality in mind. You need to keep your humanity in mind. And I'm going to move on to the next point now, which is the conformity. As we saw, like for this example, for example, the conformity that's in there and the hive mind conformity that's there, it's fucking insane. There's no one who's able to say no. And maybe the leaders will tell you this, like, hey, it's okay to say no, it's okay to say no, right? But once shit hits the fan, they won't tell you that. And I'll give you a great example, and that was COVID, right? COVID, very few soldiers decided to stand up and say no. They just went along with all, like, okay, the leadership says we have to take the vaccine, we're going to take the vaccine. Fuck no, all right? Fuck that shit. And any soldier who, you know, wasn't a part of this hive mind would have said no too. A lot of soldiers, they would have said no, but they were afraid. They were afraid of the backlash. And, you know, my heart goes out to the people who were like, who said no and they had consequences. You're brave, right? You're the ones who deserve a medal, honestly. Because that takes serious balls, right? Because when you're living amongst your enemy and you're able to stand up, I think that's something different. I think that's something way different. And of course, like, respect out there when you're out there and you're actually facing the enemy and, you know, you're getting pinned down and stuff like that. Respect to that too. But it's a war. It's a war at home when you're occupied by, you know, you're occupied by the enemy, right? The enemy walks beside you. They work beside you. They're, you know, your leader. And they're telling you to go out there and risk your body, your life, to get, right? We got to say no to that. We got to be strong. We got to be better. And here's the thing, right? If the leaders don't care enough to tell you that, hey, listen, soldiers, there's this new vaccine, right? And I don't want to force you to do this, right? And the leaders just suck it up and say, hey, you got to go take this. Everyone's taking this now. What would they say when it came to, like, some rural village out in Africa? I don't know. And they were like, yeah, we're going to all the people here. If they felt it was not really necessary, would they force you to go along with that too? This is why it's so important to keep this shit in mind and not become part of the hive mind. Because you know what's going to stop this shit from happening? People saying no. People actually standing up and, you know, doing what's right. That's what's going to stop it. It's not going to be stopped by people just following along, going along with any orders. And they'll say it. These leaders say it too, right? Oh, well, you know, they talk about fucking war rights and war crimes and all this stuff. But, you know, if it really felt like a crisis, if it really felt necessary, then they don't mention it. It's okay. If they do it for this example, would they do it for this? That's the big question. And so, I want you guys to go in there. I want you to go in there and I want you to do a phenomenal job. I want you to become hard to kill. I want you to become warriors. I want you to learn the lessons. And I want you to work alongside people. And I want you to learn teamwork and the value and become capable. But I'm warning you, right? I'm warning you. There will probably be situations where you're going to have to say no to something in there. And I'm urging you to stand up for that. Because that's the only thing you own when it comes to this. You are cannon fodder. You are replaceable. Know that. But what you own is your character. What you own is your humanity, if you decide to do so. And you're probably thinking, hey, Nico, you're blowing it way out of proportion. It's just a simple vaccine. That couldn't lead to some heinous crime out and about. Couldn't it? You know, there's this interesting story that I heard. A guy came to talk to us in high school, actually. I was really, you know, intrigued by the whole military thing back then, too. And he was talking about the Iraq War and how, because the Americans were caught, you know, torturing Iraqi prisoners, right? And he said that the first thing that led to these heinous actions was that the soldiers stopped shining their shoes. And that doesn't mean that, you know, if you play something wrong, something bad is going to happen. It was the fact that something was out of line in that way. And that led to a different consequence. And so, you know, I'm not one to shine my shoes always. That doesn't mean that, you know, I end up, you know, doing some heinous crime, right? I don't really think that that's how it works for everything and all scenarios. But it's like, if you can't say no to literal poison going into your body, would you be able to say no to that? Because I think this is a better example than just shining shoes. Honestly, I do think that's so. And I don't even know if this guy who came to our school and talked about this, he wasn't even part of the military. I think he was just a journalist or something. I don't even know if he was speaking the truth, right? He might have been biased. Who knows? But I think this is such a good example, right? The little vaccine they wanted to give you. You got to keep this stuff in check. And I don't want to make this video all about the vaccine and all that stuff. I made a different video on that. But you got to watch out for this stuff, this principle of keeping your humanity, of keeping your sanity, of not undermining your own personal values, and in order to just, satisfy someone. Don't become a part of the conformity that's in there. Because you can go in there and you can do a good job in your uniform. And you can do a phenomenal job out in the field, out and about, whatever job you have there. But you don't need to be part of this. Look at the fucking, Hacksaw Ridge. I think that's a bit of an extreme example though. If you're signing up for it outside of wartime, like Desmond Doss, God bless, then you should, you should go in there and know that, hey, you're probably going to touch a gun, right? Like, I'm not saying you should go in there and be frail and, demand and say no to start, walking at 3 a.m. through the night because you're tired, right? That's not what I'm saying. You can't be a pussy, right? Fucking walking around the forest 4 a.m., that's what you gotta do. That's part of the fucking job, right? And once you come home, you got the stories, right? It's such a fun thing, right? It's nice and sunny outside right now, but it's been raining for the last few days. And I'm just thinking, holy fuck, I'm so happy I'm not out in the forest, right? But now that it's sunny, I'm thinking like, damn, it would be nice to like sit in the camp over in the forest there and start, looking and doing reconnaissance and fuck, oh my God, I do miss it sometimes. So that's kind of a long answer, I guess, to this whole question. And also, I wouldn't advise you to stay for many years, 20 years, right? But because you probably get occupied with the system. But that's the facts of just what I think. Feel free to let me know what you guys think in the comments below if you have experience with this. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy that. Take care, right? And God bless.